Today we are diving into 5 wrestlers Norvell Austin will never forgive, and the reasons might surprise you. Some of these guys were once close to him, and somehow things still fell apart. So what really happened behind the scenes? Let's get into it and break it all down. 1. Experimented Jerry Lawler. Norvell Austin had been around long enough to deal with all types of wrestlers, but something about his history with Jerry Lawler never sat right with him. Their paths crossed in the Continental Wrestling Association during the early 80s, when Norvell was working with Dennis Condrey and Randy Rose as part of his version of the Midnight Express. At first, Norvell approached the rivalry with the same mindset he brought to everything in the ring. Show up, do the job, keep the heat alive. But whenever Jerry Lawler entered the picture, things always felt different. Lawler held enormous influence in the CWA. Everyone knew it. Fans knew it. Wrestlers knew it. Even people who barely followed the territory understood that Lawler had the final say more often than not. For Norvell, this power imbalance slowly turned into a deep frustration. Norvell believed that Lawler tried to control too much. He felt that every storyline involving the Midnight Express had this invisible limit placed on it. Nothing could go too far if it meant Lawler took even a small step back. Norvell was proud of his work and proud of the team he built with Condrey and Rose. He wanted their run in Memphis to feel big and meaningful. Instead, he often felt their momentum was being slowed down. Whenever their feud with Lawler heated up, something would change backstage. Plans that seemed clear at the start of the week suddenly shifted. The energy around the group would fall apart, and Norvell blamed Lawler for most of it. What bothered Norvell the most was the feeling that Lawler saw him as replaceable. Norvell had been grinding on the road for years, helping create moments that fans still remembered. Yet Lawler treated him like someone who could be plugged in or removed at any time. That type of treatment left a mark. Norvell cared deeply about respect, not empty praise, not backstage handshakes, real respect. The kind that comes from working hard and earning your place. He never felt he received that from Lawler. Even after the rivalry ended, the bitterness stayed with him. Norvell believed that Lawler protected his own spotlight at the cost of everyone else's progress, including his. To Norvell, losing opportunities because another man wanted to remain center stage was something he could never move past. And that is why Jerry Lawler remained someone he could never forgive. Number 2. Miokidu Armstrong and Scott Armstrong. When people look back at Norvell Austin's run in the Southeast, they often remember the excitement around the Midnight Express and their battles for the NWA Southeastern Tag Team Championship. Those matches with Brad Armstrong and Scott Armstrong helped the group gain real attention in the territory. On the surface, it looked like a strong rivalry that pushed everyone involved. But for Norvell, things behind the curtain did not feel nearly as respectful as the fans assumed. Over time, he built up a real frustration toward the Armstrong brothers, and it slowly reached a point where forgiveness felt impossible. Norvell always believed in hard work and fair treatment in the ring. He wanted matches that lifted both teams and made the story stronger. But whenever he worked with Brad and Scott, he felt they were being positioned as the chosen local heroes, while the Midnight Express were treated like tools to give them another big moment. Norvell knew the Armstrong name held power in the region. Their father was respected, their family had deep ties, and the fans adored them. Norvell understood all of that, but he also felt that this admiration made things uneven. It bothered him that he and his partners often seemed to be used to protecting the Armstrong family image instead of being allowed to shine on their own. He also felt that Brad and Scott did not always appreciate the effort he and his group put into making their matches stand out. Norvell spent years developing his timing, his character, and his teamwork with Condrey and Rose. He wanted every match to have purpose and energy, but he sensed that the Armstrong brothers saw him as an obstacle instead of a fellow professional. When they pushed for certain outcomes or spoke to the promoters about where the feud should go, Norvell felt their suggestions always placed the Midnight Express in a weaker position. That created a quiet resentment that grew each time he saw another opportunity slip away. What made it worse for Norvell was the feeling that the Armstrong brothers never tried to understand his point of view. They had family influence, loyal fans, and management support. Norvell had to rely on his talent and his ability to keep the audience invested. When that effort was brushed aside, it left him feeling overlooked and undervalued. 3. Fabulous Ones. Whenever the story of Norvell Austin comes up, people usually remember the excitement around his time with the original Midnight Express and later his run with the Pretty Young Things. Both teams crossed paths with the Fabulous Ones many times, and the matches were always intense. Controversies Kern and Stan Lane were polished performers with a loyal following, and their flashy image made them major stars in the Southern Territories. But behind all the big reactions and strong crowds, Norvell carried feelings that never really faded. His history with the Fabulous Ones became one of the reasons he could never move on from certain grudges. In the beginning, when Norvell was working with Dennis Condrey and Randy Rose, he felt that the Fabulous Ones treated the feud as if it was their show and everyone else was there to support their spotlight. Norvell believed that every time his team started gaining steam, something shifted in the booking. He had the sense that Kern and Lane wanted to make sure they stayed on top no matter what. Even when the Midnight Express delivered sharp work and strong reactions, Norvell felt the rivalry kept getting adjusted to protect the Fabulous Ones rather than allow both teams to grow in the spotlight. Later, when Norvell teamed with Coco Beware as the Pretty Young Things, the dynamic did not change as much as he hoped. Winning the AWA Southern Tag Team titles twice should have felt like a fresh start. It should have proved that he and Coco earned their place. But even during those victories, Norvell sensed tension. He felt that Kern and Lane never truly respected what the Pretty Young Things brought to the territory. Norvell believed they looked at him and Coco as a team that existed to chase them rather than stand equal to them. There were also small things that gained weight over time. Comments backstage, quiet shifts in plans, moments where Norvell felt brushed aside when he tried to share ideas. The Fabulous Ones had a reputation for protecting their brand, and Norvell felt that this attitude often came at his expense. He worked hard to give the fans something memorable, yet he believed Kern and Lane were more focused on maintaining their image than creating a balanced rivalry. 4. Vs. Adrian Street. Norvell Austin had seen plenty of unusual characters in wrestling, but working with Adrian Street created a different kind of tension. Adrian had a bold look, a dramatic style, and a way of drawing attention the moment he stepped through the curtain. When Norvell's team Soul Patrol broke apart, he was thrown into a new chapter where his story became tied to Adrian, who at the time held the NWA Southeastern Heavyweight Championship. Their feud became one of the most heated programs in the territory, and fans still remember the night Norvell took the title from him in 1986. But behind all the excitement, Norvell held on to feelings that never softened. Norvell respected talent. He respected hard work. He respected people who understood the importance of giving and taking in the ring. But with Adrian, he always felt that things leaned too heavily in one direction. Adrian carried himself like someone who believed the show revolved around him. Norvell sensed this from the very first moment they had to work closely together. There were times when Adrian pushed ideas that placed himself in the spotlight, while leaving Norvell with very little room to build his own momentum. For someone who had fought for every inch of progress in the business, this rubbed him the wrong way. Another part of the bitterness came from how Adrian approached backstage conversations. Norvell felt that Adrian often dismissed his input or acted like his own vision was the only one that mattered. Norvell had spent years building his name with different partners and in different territories. He wanted a rivalry that let both men shine. Instead, he kept feeling brushed aside, as if Adrian wanted to guide every moment in a direction that made him look untouchable. Even after Norvell won the championship, the tension did not fade. Instead of feeling like he earned Adrian's respect, Norvell sensed even more distance. Adrian seemed bothered by the fact that someone he underestimated had taken the title from him. Norvell believed that the bitterness from Adrian spilled into later interactions as well, which only deepened the divide. 5. Butch Malone. When people talk about Norvell Austin's early years, they sometimes forget how important his partnership with Butch Malone once seemed. They held the NWA Tennessee Tag Team Championship together, and for a short moment, it looked like they were building something solid. Norvell believed they could grow as a team and make a real mark in the territory. But everything changed once they lost the titles. The shift was sudden and cold, and it left Norvell with a feeling he never fully got rid of. The breakup led to a brief feud between them, and that stretch of time showed Norvell a side of Butch he never expected to see. What bothered Norvell the most was how quickly Butch moved on from their partnership. Norvell believed that a simple, honest conversation could have prevented the tension from growing. Instead, everything was handled through short interactions and cold looks. That silence made the situation worse. It left Norvell feeling like their partnership had meant far more to him than it ever meant to Butch. And that wraps up today's video. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss anything new, and we will see you again soon.